Not a bad idea.
Alrighty. Dude, what the fuck was that?
That was my phone vibrating because it got a notification that you'd just started the stream. Because I get YouTube notifications from like half my subs now, even half the people I'm subbed to now, even when I don't fucking pick it, I get them on the fucking mobile. Actually, just in general. Because you know how now they have next to subscribe, they have the thing you click on.
The bell, yeah.
And that lets you get the notifications. Well, if you subscribe and you don't click on it, it still seems to automatically give you the fucking things.
Yep.
Which is annoying.
Yeah, and it's also annoying that they have to make us just click on a bell just to get notifications. I mean, I'm fucking subscribed to the channel. That should be enough, man.
Although clicking to that to give you notifications gives you notifications like on your phone and in the Google general notifications thing. I don't know. Google's fucking algorithm is fucked because, like, if you go to the front page of YouTube,
yeah,
like half of the shit is suggested videos and watch again, and it's not fucking new shit from who you're subbed to.
Oh yeah.
And if it is, then it'll just be whichever channel you're subbed to that you've watched the most at the moment. It'll just show like their last 20 videos or something. Oh. YouTube is fucking weird.
YouTube is fucked up big time these days.
You don't say. But everyone seems to just... I don't know. Until you get banned... People are just like, better just fucking grin and bear it.
Alas. Alright, so... this week, Sam and I decided that we'd try something a bit more organized. Instead of just spouting off random shit.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, although, before we get to that, there is at least one thing I want to talk about.
Okay.
Did you see that as a troll job and a pro PewDiePie thing, Sargon of Akkad was trying to get death to all Jews fucking trending on Twitter?
Holy shit.
Yeah, this happened last night. So what happened was he's not the only one, but various people were tweeting things, and Notch tweeted out that he just wanted to say that he thought people who tweeted out, death to all Jews, he thought that was not a good thing to tweet out. And so Sargon replies with, imagine how bad it would be if it started trending on Twitter, and then starts tweeting a bunch of things saying, everyone don't tweet out death to all Jews. And then of course a fuck ton of people start tweeting shit along those lines and retweeting it, myself included. And don't say death to all Jews and all of this. It was pretty fucking hilarious. It's still kind of going on, but yeah, it was
I'm pretty sure Twitter's trying to bury it.
Oh, it will have. The funny thing is, Sargon hasn't even gotten in Twitter jail yet again for it. People are like, oh, better ramp up for another 24 hours of free Sargon, but no, it seems like it hasn't happened. But yeah,
learned their lesson
for a good couple of hours last night, like my feed was all just was shit that had death to all Jews in it. And they were all putting it in quotation marks and saying, don't do that, or, oh, is this a new Netflix show? Yes, it's based on a book that was originally written in Arabic and's only been translated to German and all sorts of stuff.
Oh my god.
It's Look at the hair. Look, it was fucking funny shit, man.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was worthy of note that fucking Saga tried to get Death to all Jews.
Now it's a good thing that Sam said funny, because that gives us a segue into what we're going to try talking about.
Almost like I planned it that way. I didn't, but
it works.
Hey, I'll take it. It works.
One thing Sam and I really love is stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Actually, I've got to admit, and you're going to find this surprising given that a good chunk of what I've been watching of late has been comedy shows, but I don't generally consume comedy unless it's stand-up comedy. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of most comedy shows or sitcoms, anything like that. Yeah. Although there are some great comedies out there, but a good... Most of the time, if I'm, watching or listening to comedy or something, it's stand-up.
Yeah. So we're just basically gonna run through our 7 favorite stand-up comedians.
Oh God, we had to number it. Oh fuck, I thought we were just doing.
We're not ranking it. We're just going.
No, I know it's just a set number. Oh, I didn't realize we had a set number to pick. Oh well, fuck it.
Well, we could go higher if you want.
We'll start with 7, see where it goes, eh?
Alright, so...
Just gotta think.
You want to go first, or should I?
You go first, give me a moment to think.
Alright. I'm gonna start off with Joe Rogan.
Okay. I have not... I've seen some of his stand-up, but I've not seen a ton of it. I dig him, though. He's quite good, but... Yeah.
If you got Netflix, you should totally be watching his special Triggered.
That's on my list.
Yeah.
And
also
I really like
his podcast is awesome too.
Yeah, that's one of those podcasts where I like it, but I don't tend to watch unless there's a guest I like. Or I'm interested in seeing him with, so like the Alex Jones one that would have been great, but Eddie Bravo almost fucking ruined it because that's what Eddie Bravo fucking does. It's like back in the days, back in the old days of the Opie and Anthony show where they'd have great guests and then sometimes they'd have someone like Jay Moore who was just like a black pill of black fucking hole that sucked all the funny out of the room. Jay Moore's actually like he's not a terrible stand-up comic. He's just kind of mediocre. But stick him in a room with funny people in an interview or a conversation, and he's the worst fucking thing.
Kind of like Dane Cook.
Yeah, with Dane Cook, like, I don't hate Dane Cook. He's good at what he does. What he does is very lowbrow, middling, but it's not painfully bad, and, he's fine at it. But
the worst crime he's guilty of is just playing it too safe.
Yeah, it's being boring. He's kind of like, what's his name? Black dude.
That doesn't really narrow it down.
I know. He's done a couple movies with The Rock.
Kevin Hart?
Kevin Hart. Where Kevin Hart's not safe, necessarily, but, like, I don't find his material funny, which is a shame because he's got natural talent. He's got great delivery and timing and all that, but his actual jokes leave me pretty cold. Much like, now, definitely not safe, but much like, Eddie Murphy's old stand-up stuff where I'm like, these jokes aren't very funny, but like, the timing and shit is great.
I think with Eddie Murphy, it's more of a case like his material hasn't aged all that well. Like, I'm pretty sure at the time that stuff killed.
It could be, but like a lot of comedy that people find dated, like old Sam Kinison stuff or old Lenny Bruce stuff, where you need to really know the context of the time, I still find that funny. So, although, who knows? But yeah, a really funny Rogan bit is, I assume you've seen his bit on the, the Comedy Central, This Can't Be Happening thing.
I need to.
Oh, his bit on that is hilarious. So basically, it's a story of how he ended up very high in a hotel room and a fucking fire alarm went off. And so they're all evacuating through the fucking fire escapes. And he's fucking stoned out of his mind. And he's with some other comic who's like this really fucking fat comic. I forget the details, but it was really great. That series is kind of hit or miss, but it can be really funny.
No.
Also hilarious is Mike Maron's one, where he convinced himself that he had brain cancer because he was getting all tingly everywhere.
One thing I've kind of been interested in checking out Rogan's old sitcom News Radio.
I didn't know he'd had a sitcom.
Yeah, he did. It was like way back, I think, before Fear Factor, and you can tell because Rogan still has hair. Because Rogan still has hair at this point.
Wow, that's jeez. You know what Rogan makes me think?
Here's the best thing. The best part. He does this sitcom with Andy Dick.
Oh God. you know who Rogan reminds me of in the style? He's like a non-cucked, actually funny version of Henry Rollins. And that he's very long form, and you know, you can be a long form comic and still have a ton of laughs, but he's kind of more a storyteller with jokes in there than a comic who's just going for laughs, first and foremost. Whereas Henry Rollins, he's a guy who isn't funny, so he goes, I'm spoken word because I'm not funny enough to claim to be a stand-up comic.
Yes. Love his music, love some of his movies and some of the TV shows he was in, but his comedy's kind of hit or miss.
He's done some good stuff over the years, but I hate him. He's just such a fucking liberal cuck who holds the most mainstream cucked liberal views and acts like they're edgy.
Yeah.
You know, he's like...
Yeah, Henry Rollins also kind of mystifies... Henry Rollins is one of those guys who just mystifies me just because I just look at all these old punks and all these guys are about as lefty as you can get. Like, these are supposed to be punks. Well, these guys should be against all authority.
Well, here's the deal with punk. Punk was never about politics. That is a myth. That's a lie that is pushed by people who want to make punk seem more than it was. Punk was a fuck you to prog rock. It was a fuck you to the music establishment.
Which is true.
Not the political establishment.
Yeah,
and that's why when you get songs like God Save the Queen that are kind of political, they're sort of general fuck you to the establishment, right? Yeah, it's a general screaming rage barely directed. And that's the thing. Punk is not deep. It was never deep. And the people who go, it's this deep expression of rage against the establishment. No, it's not. It was just a bunch of people who could barely play going, man, why are all these songs 10 minutes long and wanky? Let's just fucking free chords, yell, make some shit, right? That's what it was.
Okay, like you could...
And
come on, you're going to...
By
You got Sex Pistols, man, the Ramones. That shit was awesome.
I'm not saying they weren't good. I'm saying this is the general thing of punk, okay? And even the Sex Pistols, they made some good songs, but it was in spite of themselves. Very limited musicians. The Ramones are more technically, skilled. But again, the Ramones, what they wrote, and the Clash as well, although the Clash... the Clash were more sophisticated musicians and they had all this extra influence, the reggae influence and all this stuff. That did end up... Reggae. Yeah. Can't blame them. Reggae, there's some fucking good reggae. New Zealand has some of the best reggae in the world, so I'm kind of biased, but... the thing with the Ramones and the Clash was they were basically writing short 3-chord pop songs with attitude. And the Sex Pistols were kind of trying to write 3-chord pop songs with attitude, but it ended up being attitude with 3-chord pop songs, They got it the other way around. Yeah. And that's what... It's fun. It's fun, but it's not sophisticated music. It's not...
Yeah. And then...
what the Okay, that's gone. And the thing is, by the time punk, 79, yeah. I think was when Maggie Thatcher got elected. And everyone goes, punk was all about that. Well, actually, punk had kind of, as a big movement, had started to die out around then. There were a few big bands that were still doing it, but, the movement that it was had kind of gone.
And then you had the hardcore scene that picked up the torch.
Oh, hardcore is the worst. Everything. It's every hardcore song.
Although I will say, like the guys from the SoCal scene, like Black Flag, like Social Distortion and Bad Religion, they managed to get better.
Yeah, because they had actual musical sensibilities and listened. They didn't just have an echo chamber that they listened to.
The guys from the DC scene, on the other hand, not so much.
The funny thing about Rollins is that his claim to fame is, is in Black Flag. Okay, and the thing is, if you ask most Black Flag fans, they'll agree. Yeah, he was the worst fucking vocalist in the band. Like, they were good albums. But he was, the least talented singer who was ever in that band, pretty much. Because he didn't really sing. He shouted and talked. Like a less melodic fucking James Hetfield.
Yeah, sorry. When you're going up against guys like Greg Gaffin or Mike Ness, really a contrast.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, and then hardcore went that whole weird, it went in a different direction where it went, noise, metal-y weirdness, and that was generally pretty terrible.
Yeah, like the shit Minor Threat was doing.
Although there is one good record. There is one record that I like that's in that genre, and it's whatever that Husker Du record is. I forget the name, or Husker Du, however it's pronounced.
Husker Du.
That one.
Husker Du. I've never seen them classified as punk. They're.
No, hardcore. I'm talking about like the hardcore noise sort of thing.
Well, Husker Du Husker Du is very amorphous when it comes to genre. You can't really nail it down.
Yeah, that's true. But there's that one record of theirs, that sort of semi-concept album that I quite like that, and that's the closest thing to hardcore that I've ever liked.
I think about when it comes to Husker Du, you could best describe it as a less polished version of Depeche Mode.
Yeah, although I'd also say that better. Like, I never liked Depeche Mode. Honestly, but yeah.
Okay, well, we went on a tangent there, so...
Oh, yeah, we did. And this fucking phone is already down to 60-something% fucking battery, so I don't know how long I'm going to be able to stay on here.
All right.
It was up at 90-something when we started. Well, 80-something when we started, so...
Yeah, we better actually focus.
Joe Rogan. Yep. You were talking about Rogan.
Yep, I started off with Joe Rogan. How about you?
Who would I... You know what, since I mentioned him, I'll go with fucking Mark Maron. I'll go with Maron. And I really like... he's more famous now as a podcaster, almost, than as a stand-up comic. Even though he had a special quite recently, a year or two ago on Netflix. That's actually quite good. But if... I suppose you could say Woody Allen was the guy who sort of brought the neurotic Jew comic sort of persona into the mainstream. And I think Mark Maron basically perfected it. Are you particularly familiar with Maron?
No, I am not.
Okay. I like him a lot. He's got a fairly decent sitcom that it's kind of along the Louis lines, except more conventional, and it's not bad, but it's all right. And it's got a very good podcast, but his stand-up stuff is fucking great. I'm trying to remember what his breakthrough one was, because that's the album is the one that I would say to check out. It's This Has to Be Funny. That's it. And he has bits about what was one of his jokes where he refuses to, like, oh shit, something that he has a bunch of cats, and he refuses to masturbate if any of them are in the room because he never wants to be the person who says, "Get off the bed, Daddy needs to masturbate," or something like that to the cats.
Oh my god. See that.
But he's fucking great. He's very sort of that angrier side of the neurotic Jew, almost sort of genuine, like, self-loathing and what the fuck kind of analysis where, you know, there's just so much psychologically wrong with him, but he's so fucking funny. Like, he was on Conan one time, and he's like, somehow the topic of autoerotic asphyxiation came up, and he goes, "You know, I understand it now. That's a road thing." That's a thing. No one does that at home. That's something you do on the road. Because I'm a road comic. So, you know, I get, you know, I'm in a hotel room and I get depressed. You know, you get depressed. And then the next, you know, you decide I want to kill myself. And then it passes and you go, I want to jerk off. And that's how it happens. You combine the two instincts. So, it's like, I'd never do it. But he's just that.
He at least gets the mindset.
Yeah, he's that sort of comic where he just, I don't know, I really like him. He's, it's been ages since, he has a special, quite a good one, Finky Pain, that is on Netflix, because he did it with Netflix. So that's worth checking out at some point. But yeah.
All right. Number 6 for me would be Lewis Black.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you. He can be my number 6 too. Yep. Lewis Black is, I don't want to hijack you, but Lewis Black has a special place in my heart because when I was first getting into stand-up comedy back in sort of when I was about, 15 or so, Lewis Black was one of the early comics that I discovered. You know, it was sort of, Dennis Miller, Lewis Black, and Louis C.K. and George Carlin and Richard Pryor, right? Those were sort of the early guys. And Lewis Black so he always has a special place in my heart for that. And the Off-White album in particular is one of the funniest fucking things ever. You know, and of course there's the infamous, legendary, I'm trying to remember exactly how it was worded. If it weren't for that horse, I never would have spent that year in college or whatever it was that he's convinced could have given him the aneurysm because it was so stupid.
I just like Lewis Black's style. His style is that he's just pissed off all the time. I've read somewhere that he describes his style of comedy as the Titanic is sinking and he's the only one that knows it.
Yeah. And he's a very funny guy, and there's certain phrases of his that are just like in my head, like from that same bit, where he goes, you hear what causes aneurysms is, you hear something incredibly stupid and you turn to go, did you hear that? And no one else heard it. And one side of your brain turns to the other and says, it's cold in here and I fear we may die. and the way he delivers that is just in my head. And the other one is, where he's talking about earthquakes and he went somewhere and there was an earthquake and they talked about it like it was a minor, said it was a minor one. He goes, well, from where, how's it minor? From where I stand, the earth doth quaketh. What the fuck's minor about that? That's just, he's fucking great in his delivery and his material. I'm with you. It's fucking gold. And he's also someone who he knows, unlike certain very good comics, David Cross, who've done entire bit, or Jim Jeffries, who've done entire fucking specials on how much they hate right-wing politics, and it's not been particularly funny, which it would be fine if it were funny, but, whilst he is a lefty, he knows when to do political bits and when not to do political bits.
I think he also kind of, I think he's got a bit where he said, like, the Democrats are the Republicans are a party of bad ideas and the Democrats are a party of no ideas.
Yeah, and there's the other one where, like, Democrats will come up with an idea and the Republicans go, I know, let's make it even shittier. So he's very cynical, sort of. He's a democratic socialist, but he's very cynical. You know, he liked Bernie, and then he was like, wow, fuck everyone. But yeah, no, Lewis Black is fucking great.
Okay, so since we both agreed on number 6, I'll just take number 5 then. And I will award number 5 to...
Oh, just worth noting is, I don't think we said this whilst the stream was running. These are in no particular order, and at least in my part, off the top of my head.
There is no rank. Yeah, this isn't a rank. It's just 7 up. Yeah, for number 5, I am going with Dylan Moran.
Dylan Moran, Dylan Moran is great. He's...
Honestly, if you guys have not seen Black Books, you are doing something wrong with your life.
Yes, and you've also just the same goes for his stand-up specials. He's probably top 15 for me, or somewhere around there, top 10, top 15. But he's great. One of my favorite jokes of his was when he compared German to a typewriter, the sound of the German language to a typewriter wrapped in tinfoil being kicked down the stairs. He just has such a way with fucking weird descriptions, and it's awesome.
So are we sharing number 5 again, or do you have a different one?
No, I just wanted to say what I had to say about him. So, what do you have to say about Dylan Moran?
Like I said, I was mainly introduced to him through Black Books, which
same.
Like I said, one of the funniest sitcoms ever.
Yeah. It's a very short show too. If anyone is interested in watching it, it's got like less than 20 episodes. I think it's only got like 18 episodes or something.
It's like 4 seasons and there's like 6 episodes apiece, I think.
Yeah, and it's 20-something minute wise. One of the great absurdist cult classic British sitcoms. And I remember when I was sort of younger. I mean that show ran early 2000s, and it was on repeats for several years here in New Zealand, and so I remember, watching that shit all the time when I was younger, and fucking great stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite jokes from Black Books has to be when it's the episode where Manny quits.
Yes.
And then he comes by to check on Bernard. And he's just seen how much of a slob he is, which is pretty normal for Bernard, but this time he's really gone off the deep end.
Yeah.
And Manny says to him, "You can't live off the mushrooms growing in your ears."
That show was so great, and I mean, I just rewatched it recently, and what's the guy's name who played Manny?
Bill Bailey.
Bill Bailey. He's become super famous off the back of that show. And the thing that frustrates me with him is he's another guy whose his timing, his delivery, all that's great, but his material is kind of meh. But yeah. Number 5. Suppose if you're done with Dylan Moran. Are you done with talking about Dylan Moran? Okay.
Yeah, I'm done with Dylan Moran.
I'm trying to think. I don't want to go with the obvious, because there's 3 obvious ones that I want to leave to the last 3 options, or 3 ones that you will just go, well, of course you put them.
Well, it'll be obvious to me.
Yeah. Hence why I said to you. I'm going to go with Patrice O'Neill, number 5. Who, have you seen much of his stuff?
About the only thing I know of Patrice O'Neill was that Amy Schumer stole one of his jokes.
Yeah. So Patrice O'Neill is one of the guys that I was introduced to via the Opie and Anthony show back in the day, because I got into stand-up and I listened to a bunch of the episodes of that show with people, and that's how I got into O&A. And Patrice was probably the greatest guest they ever had. Out of all the recurrent guests, and that includes people like Louis C.K., people like Bill Burr, people like Colin Quinn, and Patrice was funnier than any of them. And, yeah. it's kind of hard to really talk about him if you're not all that familiar with him, but he just fucking hilarious. No fucking filter whatsoever. Easily, I think the best of the modern black comedians who, would talk about race and sex and, genders and all that shit, but he had a really interesting perspective and was a really intelligent guy too. And, he used to joke that he's dead now. He died 2011, I think, of 2011 or so, went into a diabetic coma and died. And to this day, he and Bill Burr were basically best friends. And to this day, Bill Burr still does a yearly benefit show with a bunch of comics to raise money for his wife, for Patrice's wife. So he's one of those guys who he never got famous because he burnt every fucking bridge. And in fact, there's actually a YouTube video. It's on YouTube, but it was actually an O&A thing where they had him and Chris Rock on at the same time. And Chris Rock was just lecturing him on how fucking retarded his way of doing business was because he burnt every bridge and fucked all his fucking connections to Hollywood and shit, so he would never be big. But like he used to joke that he didn't want to get rid of racism because then that meant that he couldn't be racist. If you got rid of white people being racist against blacks, then he couldn't be racist against, Mexicans and white people and all that shit.
Oh man.
And it's just fucking really funny shit. Like he had one bit where he's like, I said that the way you can tell how pretty a white girl is how long they look for her after she goes missing. And then he picks a random chick from the audience who's with her with her boyfriend. He goes, they'd look for you for a while. For ages, and just starts fucking with her. And it's just so funny. He goes, that if he ever goes missing, he's going to take a fucking white baby and fucking tie it to his belt so that they'll find him. Because I'll be looking for it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, fucking just a fucking genius and one of the great storytellers and comics just ever. And sadly he's dead, but yeah, that's my number 5, Patrice O'Neal.
Right. Number 4. I'm gonna go with Stephen Fry.
Okay, would you count him as a stand-up?
I think he is.
I kind of think he's more of a spoken word guy who has sort of one-man shows rather than a comic. Particularly, he's a comic actor, but doesn't really do stand-up. At least that's my view of it. As a comic actor, he's great, obviously.
I think he's done stand-up. But...
He may have. That's not what I associate him with. Have you ever seen that old sketch show that he and Hugh Laurie had together? A bit of Fry and Laurie?
No, but I keep meaning to.
It's honestly I would put it above Monty Python's Flying Circus as the greatest sketch show ever. Yes. I genuinely would. And
this is the type of guy I'm friends with, a man who will blaspheme Monty Python.
No, Monty Python's number 2. I love Monty Python. But honestly, and Monty Python, both were actually big parts of my sort of early teens. Actually, late childhood and early teens was, Monty Python and a bit of Fry and Laurie were both big parts of that. But yeah. Along with the Marx Brothers.
I've also heard good things about Mr. Show.
Not familiar with it.
That was a...
Oh, they were also...
That was
if you know... Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
you were saying.
Yeah, it was a sketch show on HBO that had David Cross and, was it...
Oh, that one. Yeah, okay, I've heard good things about that too.
Or was it Bob Odenkirk? The one that plays Saul on Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah. But actually, it's Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie were quite a popular duo in the 90s in comedy.
Yeah.
Or I think it was the 90s mostly, because they also did those Woodhouse adaptations. There was, I don't know if you've read any P.G. Woodhouse, but he was one of the great early 20th century British comic writers. He wrote a bunch of stories, Jeeves and Worcester, where you had Bertie Worcester, who was, a rich, upper-class, poncy idiot, and he had with a very capable, snarky butler who was Jeeves. And there was an adaptation of that back in, I think, the 90s that had Hugh Laurie as Worcester and Stephen Fry as Jeeves that was actually very good.
I'll have to see that.
It's worth checking out, but yeah. Sorry, I keep talking over you.
No, it's fine. It's fine, man. But yeah.
Go. Speak.
But with me, when it comes to Stephen Fry, what I got, my exposure to him was obviously Blackadder.
Yeah, Blackadder's great.
Yeah, but I'm trying to decide if Lord Melchett from Blackadder 2 was his best character, or General Melchett from Blackadder Goes Forth.
It's impossible. But by the way, the comment that I always have to make when Blackadder comes up is, no matter what you may think, no one is ever ready for that last episode of Blackadder Goes Forth.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, oh, he actually doesn't have a plan, and they're all going to die. Well, fuck.
Which is actually more historically accurate than you might think, because that was essentially
it is.
That was essentially the Allies' plan at the time.
Weren't they at the Somme? Like, specifically at the Somme?
I don't think they ever specified.
Okay. Well, I always got the impression that it was pretty clearly based off of the Somme, which was a fucking meat grinder.
Well, considering they had Field Marshal Haig as a character, that might be the case.
Yeah. I mean, there was literally one day, the most disastrous day of that whole campaign, where, like, over 1 million people died in one day. I think it was like 2 or 3 million even. Died in one fucking day on the Somme.
Yeah.
Like, Christ.
Mr. Dark?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Blackadder Goes Forth.
Okay.
No, but that show, I used to watch that show all the time as a kid too. Because that was always on repeats here.
Okay, so I'm done with Stephen Fry.
Right, so we're on to number 4 now? Okay. Shit. I'm going to have to go with one of the obvious ones because I can't think of a fourth right now. I had one, but I lost it. Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor is good.
Richard Pryor was, I think, the best there's ever been in terms of just being funny. That original Richard Pryor live in concert is the funniest stand-up special in history, or film in history. Like, nothing makes me laugh as hard as that. If I have been known to be, like, really depressed on days, put that on, and within 5 minutes be in physical pain from laughing, right? Like, that shit's fucking incredible. I love it, honestly, like, and all his other stuff is great. Live on the Sunset Strip, where just after he'd fucking self-immolated on cocaine, he has that bit about him lighting himself on fire, and that whole he never did a bad stand-up special. Now, I've not actually I don't think I've seen any of the classic comedy movies he was in. So I know him exclusively as a stand-up comic. I need to fix that and see some of those movies, but I somehow have not. But yeah, fucking love him.
Right.
And my favorite joke of his is such a simple one, where he's talking about, and it's all based on delivery, and he's talking about how he was really drunk one time, and this is off of that live in concert, that original film. And he's talking about how he got really drunk and got in a fight with his wife and she was threatening to leave him. And he's like, no, you can't. So he walks out, pulls out his Magnum, and fucking shoots the engine of the car. And of course the police show up. And he's got a gun. And he realizes, oh, I realized they've got guns too. And they don't shoot cars. They shoot niggers. And that line is just and that is to this day, no joke will ever make me laugh as much as they don't shoot cars. They shoot niggers. It's all about delivery, and it's the best fucking thing. Yeah, so yeah, Richard Pryor, number 4.
Okay, then I take number 3, and I'm giving that to Bill Hicks.
Same. Bill Hicks is my number 3 too.
My favorite Hicks bit was when he was talking about porn, and he's talking about how pornography is defined by the U.S. Supreme Court as material that encourages exclusively sexual thoughts and has no artistic merit. And he says that sounds like every commercial on TV.
Yeah, and then there's eventually Coke will just have an ad where it's just a woman spreading her legs, and then he goes, drink Coke.
It sucks. It sucks that he got cancer.
It really does. I can't decide my favorite bit of his. Although I am a big fan of him talking about the Gulf War, and he goes, it wasn't a war. Because you see, a war has 2 armies. Talking about just how fucking few there were in the fucking... and then the whole... Yeah, but that whole bit, and then when he's talking about everyone trying out all the weapons, and... oh man, he was great. I also love his, the Arizona Bay bit in Arizona Bay, where he's talking about how he wants there to be an earthquake that just fucking sends that part of the country out to sea.
Yeah.
Hicks was another early guy who I got introduced to, back in the day, and I just always loved his stuff. There's that cynic. He is proof that the most cynical, bitter, and angry people are disappointed idealists. Because you could tell he was an idealist. He wanted to think the best of people, but people just sucked.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys who you really wish he was still around today to get his perspective, whether you agreed with it or not. Because more often than not, I don't agree with his perspective. But it was a really interesting, intelligent, well thought out one.
Also, he probably could have taken Dennis Leary to the cleaners.
Yeah, fuck Dennis Leary, man. It takes almost like a talent to take bits as good as he stole from Bill Hicks and make them unfunny, but he did it.
Yeah.
They're just shouty, but it's bad shouty delivery, It's not Kinnison or any of the good ones. It's just, I don't know, yeah. But Hicks, fuck yes, Hicks. And so here's a question for you.
Yep.
Also Dennis Leary calling that album "There's no cure for cancer." Like, fuck you, dude. I don't know if Hicks had cancer by that point or not, but like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, hindsight. Not good with hindsight.
It's a funny aneurysm joke, all right. Anyways, the question is, Arizona Bay and Rant and E Minor, they're both very well regarded albums. What do you think about the inclusion of music on them? Because that's kind of a divisive thing for a lot of people.
Really?
Where a lot of people don't like that was on there.
Didn't mind them that much. Speaking of music...
I like it.
Speaking of music, there's a...
Tool really liked him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That Tool did a whole song that was basically a tribute to him called Third Eye.
Yeah, not a bad song either. But yeah, no, I really like the music in those 2 albums. I think it I don't know, it helps give them this weird feel, I love them, and he was just fucking great. I have his albums and I have his, the DVDs of his shows, and I think if I were forced to pick, I'd pick Rant and E Minor as my favorite album of his, and my favorite special of his, I'd go with Relentless, was it? The one from Montreal. the one where that bit you were talking about, the advertising bit, comes from. And it's just so fucking funny. But one last comment about him. Do you know what bit was my introduction to Bill Hicks?
All right, tell me.
I'm just going to quote from it. Hitler had the right idea. He was just an underachiever. I was 14 or 15 and my introduction to Bill Hicks was the Freebird rant. and actually, I think it's actually at my parents' place. Yes, it is. Fuck. I have a, yeah, I left it there, but I was going to show you it. But I have a satchel bag that has we're just a virus with shoes, man. That quote printed on it. That's how much of a fan of his I am. I asked for that for Christmas one year, or my birthday or something. And one of my aunts got it for me.
Oh my god. Alright, so, okay, we both took Bill Hicks at number 3. I go at number 2. Dennis Miller. This is the problem with thinking off the top of your head, is you then go, oh shit, should have picked Miller. Over Marin, but whatever. No, I love Miller. Guys, let me put it this way. Dennis Miller, he is Seth MacFarlane on opposite day.
Yeah. He's funny, he knows how to structure a joke. He knows that references have to sound funny to be funny. Like, he manages to...
And he's also got that one thing Mark McFarlane doesn't have. He's got subtlety.
And delivery and talent. Seth MacFarlane has talent. It's just, he's a talented singer. And he doesn't do that much. Well, he does somewhat, but, like, he should have been a singer instead of a fucking comic. Dennis Miller, when I was saying, he knows references have to sound funny to be funny. Well, you can watch a Dennis Miller bit and not get all the references, but you will still laugh at most of them because they sound funny. The phrases are funny, whether you get it or not.
One of the funniest bits I've ever seen Miller do was this is how the bit goes. I was raised Catholic, so I went to confession, and then I told the priest, "You first."
You
can't tell.
I discovered him.
You guys can't tell. He basically made a pedophile joke.
Yeah. I discovered him through stumbling across his rants from that old Dennis Miller show that he had back in the 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. Stumbling across them on YouTube. Fuck, man. God, those are funny.
I can't believe, now that you mentioned, funny you mentioned that, because I shit you not, he actually had Rob Liefeld on that show.
Have you ever seen the episode of that show we had Christopher Hitchens on? And it's just him and Christopher Hitchens together.
That should be interesting.
It was interesting. Hitchens is another guy where it's like, well, these days I disagree with most positions that he held, but I still find his perspective interesting. I'm more of a Peter Hitchens guy these days, whereas it used to be the opposite, but yeah. No, Miller is... God, I love Miller.
So we both took number 2 for Dennis Miller?
No, because my number 2 and my number 1 have to be on this list.
Okay, so number 2, Sam.
I'm going to go with Lenny Bruce, who, again, these days has a reputation of being more important than funny, due to the fact that his stuff is all very based on talking about events and culture of the time, the late 50s, early mid-60s, America. But if you know what he's talking about, that material still holds up. And I do actually know what he's talking about. So, but he's a guy who I almost view as more than just a comic. He had such an interesting perspective on the world, and he was almost like a philosopher with jokes. And he had some great jokes, but, and he just fucking great. Like, what's the bit? There's one bit of his where he's talking about obscenity, right? Mm-hmm. And obscenity is something with the only purpose being to, turn someone on. And he goes, well, then how is language obscene? He goes, how is motherfucker obscene? Right? He goes, if the word motherfucker turns you on, then you're in a lot of trouble, especially if it's my mother. Yeah. Fucking great. Also, for anyone who finds his stuff hard to follow, who was a million times harder to follow?
Oh.
With all the references, but who I also still like quite a bit. Mort Saul. He made even more. He made some really esoteric cultural references and political discussion. All this shit. If you look back at it today without knowing a shit ton about that period, you will just be lost by everything Mort Saul said. But yeah, no, I'm a big Lenny Bruce fan. All right. Okay. How familiar are you with his work, actually?
This is the first I've heard of it. I'm going to have to look him up.
Really? Lenny Bruce is generally credited as the guy who made Carlin, Hicks, and the like possible. Okay,
now I really have to check him out.
He got done for obscenity charges back in the day and all this shit. And they were trumped up because... And I did a history assignment on him in high school. And I actually read through the court transcripts for the obscenity trial. And it was pretty clear that the reason why they brought the charges against him was because he was talking about politics and religion and all this stuff, right? And being critical of it. Which back in the day, yeah. Because, of course, there were comics making, who were fouler than him, but they were just doing, just dirty jokes in the 50s and 60s. So they got away with it. Whereas he didn't. But no, he was fucking great. And, yeah. Love him. But you do have to kind of understand a lot about the politics of that era and the culture of that era and the figures of that era and all that sort of thing in order to really get him. Otherwise, you're kind of probably stuck at the, well, I get it, I guess. Yeah, he was important, but it doesn't work for me if you don't get that. But yeah. You're number one.
Bill Burr.
Of course. Bill Burr is another guy who, if we were going to top 10, Bill Burr would be on it. And actually, I think I like him more than Maron. I just was blanking, and I'd mentioned Maron. But yeah, Bill Burr is great. I agree with you.
I just watched Bill Burr's stuff, and it's like a light went on in my head. I'm saying, this is the kind of guy I want to emulate.
Yeah.
Not steal. There's a difference. But the Bill Burr he doesn't go into a special with any plan. His stuff is completely anecdotal. He doesn't.
I thought, doesn't he have a general outline, but he improvises the details and stuff?
Well, I guess if he has any organization, that's probably about it. But it's not I was listening to one of his podcasts and he says I was saying about how I tell this joke and I listen to this joke and that joke and that joke, and then you say. And then I'm saying, no, you're never gonna be that guy.
Yeah,
he doesn't meticulously plan his stuff out. He just lets it kind of come out organically.
He's one of the most naturally funny guys I think ever.
Yeah, and plus he's a comedian who's got identity. You will hear something that you will hear one of his bits and you will know immediately that is a Bill Burr bit. No one does comedy like him at all, even right now.
And you'd know that even if his voice weren't super distinctive just because of the style of it.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, he's got a completely unique style to it.
He breaks the rules. He doesn't, of structure, of delivery, of everything, and he makes it work. Yeah. Much like, and we're going to get to this in a minute, but the same can be said of my number one. Well, actually, my number one even more so in some ways. But yeah, no, and you know who my number one is.
Yes, I do. But yeah, I also love Bill Burr just because he doesn't give a fuck who he pisses off.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say that our number ones are actually ranked, but the rest aren't? And are just off the top of my head? Because my number one is my favorite, actually.
Yeah, I know. Pretty much.
And I think your number one is too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Burr is great, and anyone who isn't familiar with him needs to check him out. And
watch F is for
also
Family.
Check out
F is for Family.
Also check out F is for Family, and just like F is for Family is a show that, like, if it took itself more seriously, so like it's just comedy. It's not like, say, BoJack Horseman, where it's
comedy mixed with tragedy.
Yeah, but like BoJack Horseman is much of the time, like, at least half of the episodes of BoJack Horseman are barely comedy. And F is for Family doesn't take that attitude, and thank God. Because if it did that, it would be...
Very different.
It would just be a relentless parade of misery without, like, the depth of characterization of something like BoJack Horseman to make it bearable.
Yeah.
As it is, it's a parade of misery that is made amazing by incredibly dark and depressing and cynical jokes. Although, I mentioned BoJack Horseman, and it has yet to make a joke as fucking depressing and dark as, now if you'll excuse me, I need to go and take a shower so I can't tell if I'm crying. Which BoJack Horseman did in season 1, I think. But we'll see. I fully expect jokes like that dark and depressing to happen in season 2 of F is for Family, because that show is like kind of miserable even with all the jokes, and it's great.
The thing is, like, Bill Burr says he based a lot of the show off his own life. Like, Frank is basically his dad. And you can tell, because you hear all these stories that he has about him as a kid, and you can tell that it's his dad, more or less. Although I think his dad was slightly more of a dick in real life than the character is. Which is a depressing thought, because that character is a massive piece of shit. My impression of Frank is that he's a loser, he knows it, but he's too proud to admit it. Yeah. Whereas, the impression, what I always got from the stories Bill Burr had about his childhood was that his father was, on top of that, a mean son of a bitch. At least at times. And the character in F is for Family hasn't really displayed that much. Although, season 2, he really might go off the deep end, because let's face it, we both know how season 1 ended. Yeah. No, it's gonna, like, I would not be surprised if that character ends up an alcoholic. Yeah, I would by midway through season 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if he hits someone, one of the kids or his wife, by the end of season 1. I mean, by the end of season 2. I would not be surprised. I would not also be surprised if the family splits up, because, like... Oh, that's got to be endgame. Like, that's got to happen at some point. Probably season 3 or 4, if it gets that long. Okay. I'd expect season 2 to be them sort of breaking down. Yeah. And this is a comedy we're talking about. Yeah, and this one that makes me laugh harder than most comedies. Yeah. The thing is, like, this shit kind of hits very close to home for me, because I actually went through a divorce. Yeah, that can't be fun. Yeah, it's all the stories you've heard about from kids whose parents got divorced, they're all true. Yeah.
So, Brett, let's psychoanalyze you and your experiences with that for the rest of the stream. No, let's not.
yeah, let's get to your guy. I know it, but you guys don't.
Doug Stanhope. The most caustic, aggressive, antagonistic comic ever. A guy who literally has done material that is like intentionally like antagonistic to the audience, who feeds off of just this energy, who hates everyone and everything, well, almost everyone and everything. Who's
not a full-blown misanthrope.
He is. Like, he makes Bill Hicks seem like a fucking optimist. And like Bill Burr, but again, even more so, totally eschews the rules about delivery and timing and structure. Like, he's just fucking great. How familiar with his material are you?
I only know him from that one bit you showed me.
Which one was that? Oh, was that the Drambuie bit?
Yes.
That is such a great bit. Fucking, the bit is basically, it's like, he's talking about how getting married, you know, spending all that money on a ring and flowers and all that stupid, and romantic gestures are stupid, and he goes that, if you want to get them, you just fucking get your guy just fucked up on like Drambuie and then just antagonize him the whole night until he eventually hits you. And then he'll be the nicest guy ever afterwards and we'll just blame Drambuie for it. Like, you gotta check out some of his actual full-length specials because they're fucking incredible. And one of the bits is it's called the Keynesianism as applied to the private sector,
which it is,
and it's about fucking hookers and a bad economy, and how it's like everyone else has the option of becoming a hooker. Hookers don't have that option. He just goes through, I have to start doing anal, and I have to start, eating ass, and all of this shit. That's just. It's one of the most, like, he at one point, he goes, like, hooker fucking, like, some construction guy goes to take a dump in a toilet, and then the fucking hooker's stolen the toilet paper. And she's like, I'll clean it out for you for money. And he has this, but then he starts going off onto economics and talking about how the Federal Reserve fucks everything up. There's the phrase, you better dig up that dead Jew Milton Friedman to tell you about it. And of course, Milton Friedman thought the Fed was great, but whatever, dig up that dead Jew Milton Friedman, it's just great. You feel like a bit about, in one of his earlier comedy albums, he makes he's talking about how he thinks he's a really bad comic, and he goes, I had sex with a midget and couldn't even get material out of that. And then later someone wants to hear the story, and goes, there is no story. I had sex with a midget, that's it. He goes, I can tell you the story about the time I got rolled by a transvestite hooker, though. It's called the transvestite hooker incident. And it's a story of how a transvestite hooker stole $50 from him and he was going to get a blowjob from her. No, got a blowjob from her, sorry. And his friend's like, you got your dick sucked by a guy. To which Stanhope replies, yeah, well, you waited in line to get your dick sucked by a guy. Because he did. There's all sorts of fucking just great bits, but there's one quote of his that I wanted to put in my yearbook, actually, at the end of high school. Slightly censored, but alas, we only had one day in which to get our pictures done and put our quotes down. Guess who was sick that day?
You.
Me. And it's, you're born free, you get fucked out of half of it, and you wave a flag celebrating. Yeah. he's a pretty hardcore libertarian, and in '08 he actually looked into running as a libertarian candidate, but then realized he didn't have the money.
although he probably still could have run anyway, because most libertarian candidates are dirt poor anyway.
Also, '08 was the year they fucking nominated Barr. Yeah. Still not the worst person they've ever nominated since they nominated fucking Weld.
Weld was Gary Johnson's running mate.
Yeah, but they nominated him.
Really?
The Libertarian Party doesn't work like the other parties necessarily. For other parties, the nominee picks their running mate, and the party has no say in it. And the Libertarian Party, they pick their preferred running mate, and the delegates vote on who the VP is going to be after they've voted on who the presidential candidate is going to be.
Still, I don't think...
Weird, eh?
Still, though, I don't think having Weld for a running mate did Gary Johnson any favors, although, to be fair, Gary Johnson didn't do himself any favors. No, because
the thing is, if you look back in '08, Gary Johnson was an okay candidate. What happened? Was he just high the entire time this time he ran and lying about being sober? Or was he actually telling the truth, and was he just high the whole time in '08, and does he just work way better high?
There was a funny gif I found on Facebook where someone mouths Aleppo, and it's like that one scene from Citizen Kane.
Have you seen the picture of what's his name? The Free Puppies guy. No, the Free Ponies guy. Wears a boot on his head. Anarchist.
Not ringing any bells, man.
You must know who he runs as an independent every time. He's an anarchist, he's a troll, he wears a boot on his head, and his platform is free ponies for everyone. You don't know this guy?
No, this is the first time I've heard of him. I'm surprised he doesn't do well with the brony vote.
Okay, well, this time around he joined the Libertarian Party. And there's a picture of him, and it looks like he's elbowing fucking Gary Johnson in a hallway. And someone captioned that with "found the Lepo." Gary Johnson's like, I don't think he actually was elbowing him. I think it was a perspective thing, but yeah. So yeah. Gary Johnson. God, what a joke.
And he seemed like such a nice guy.
Maybe. I don't know. He's always annoyed me in terms of his personality. I liked McAfee.
I was being facetious there.
Okay. McAfee was my pick from the candidates for the LP last time around. McAfee would have been so entertaining.
Would have been interesting to have a guy who designed firewall software for president.
Yeah.
Wait, that is the same McAfee, right?
Yeah, although he sold it long ago, that software, it didn't start to turn to shit till he sold it. He was actually going to sue, I believe he was actually talking about suing them to get his name off the product because it was so bad.
Yeah.
And he didn't have anything to do with it anymore.
Yeah. Personally, I use Avast.
Same. The Avast on Windows 10 can slow your CPU down a lot.
Yeah, but you can't beat that trade-off is the protection. It actually protects you.
Yeah. Unlike the other free one that ramps up your CPU to 100% all the time and doesn't give you any protection. Oh, wait, no. Avast is the one I had to ditch Avast because it ramped up the CPU to 100%, even if that was the only thing running. I use antivirus now, I think, which is equally good. And your CPU. Of course, my laptop's still... I'm trying to get the scan process I need to do running to fix the... Apparently, this can happen with Windows 10 updates.
Oh, fuck.
The problems I've been having with my laptop.
Oh,
yeah! So I need to get Scan Now, the SFC running.
If you guys can't tell, Sam's been streaming from his phone.
Yeah. So what's happened is it slow boots. It takes like an hour to boot. And then forever to log in. And then Windows crashes. And then it starts up again, but it freezes and hangs all the time. So I need to get a Scan Now thing running, which will fix fragmented program files. That apparently that is a thing that can happen in Windows 10 updates, is it can fragment program files for the fucking operating system.
Jesus.
The problem is getting it to actually run that process. Because it keeps hanging and freezing.
Jeez, we are so fucking screwed when it comes to OSs. It's like either Windows 10 or Mac.
Yeah, and I hate Apple. I suppose you could use Linux, but...
Nobody uses Linux.
Well, no. Nobody who's ever going to get a date in their lives uses Linux. Some people do. They just will be forever alone. So I suppose I may as well switch to Linux. But Neats unite! No, I'm not a neat. Fun. Neats are...
Oh man, I gotta...
When I rule the world, Neats will be put into work camps.
I gotta use that as a bet. The only people who use... Because I'm planning on doing... There's a comedy club in Tacoma on Market Street. They got open mic nights. They got open mic nights on Wednesdays.
Cool.
I'm gonna try and see if I can. So I'm gonna try and use that as a bit.
Nice.
But the only
just make sure you don't just use the fucking line that I did. Make sure you actually do something else with it.
Well, I can't use neat because I doubt your average Tacoma resident knows what a neat is.
That's true. You'd have to reword it.
Yeah. Also,
God, we'd be so fucked if Neats ever mobilized and took over the world.
Well,
they'd just kill everyone who wasn't a Neat.
Well,
non-Neat global genocide against non-Neats win.
Isn't that what fucking Antifa is?
I suppose, yeah. I still can't believe there's an... Well, no, I can believe there's an Antifa fucking chapter in Auckland. But it's hilarious because there's no right wing in Auckland.
So what do they have to... So what machine do they have to rage against then?
I don't know. I mean, centrist is far right by our... Like, center right-ish is far right by our political spectrum. The moderate classical liberal sort of neoliberal economically party act are considered far right. Yeah. And they're super pro open borders, pro TPP, all the standard neoliberal sort of shit. That's them, and they're far right by our standards. Their leader actually proposed a fucking free travel zone for Australia and Britain, where like anyone who's a citizen in their countries and ours should just be able to freely travel between them.
Australia, okay,
and
Australia,
live in them.
I can get Australia. I mean, you guys share kind of a...
No, Australia would be a bad idea because they have all the fucking Islamic people coming in when they become citizens.
Oh yeah.
So a very simple law that I don't get why it happens, but here, or a thing that should happen. So here, our main illegal immigration problem is like Chinese immigrants coming in, working, and overstaying their visas. Mostly Chinese, but other countries. And for whatever reason, they literally don't do anything about it. They should be fucking like deporting these people and fining the businesses that employ them.
I mean, it can't be like...
But that's not happening.
It can't be like over here in the States where we got like 3 million illegal Mexicans, and therefore it would be impossible to import them all.
Yeah. But likewise, you know, I was talking about the narco-tyranny in New Zealand, and the crazy thing is, you know, it's an example of that, is how pot is illegal, and talking about legalizing it is just, it doesn't happen really in politics. You can't legally have guns for self-defense. You have to put on your application hunting or something like that to get approved. When they do drug busts, it's people who possess pot but are not selling it. Occasionally they'll get a dealer, and every now and then they'll get a dealer of something like P, which is what we call meth. And meth is a big problem in New Zealand. Most of it comes in from Mexico. The few times they get a meth dealer or a meth lab operator, guess what? That one's all homegrown in New Zealand. That means that shit tons of meth are coming in through customs, and no one's getting it or doing anything about it. Yeah. It can't be that hard to make it so that customs do their fucking job properly on this, right? Like, surely it can't be too hard.
Yeah, I mean, at least up here, the only reason why they can't catch all the tweakers is because they're dug in like they ignored the problem. They ignored the problem for too long, so now they basically dug in like ticks.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's New Zealand fucking anarcho-tyranny, leftist, nanny-state, managerial state bullshit.
That's Washington. That's also Washington.
Yay!
Honestly...
Yay!
Honestly, if I did not like the state itself just for the scenery...
Yeah.
Scenery and the climate, I would say fuck this.
Texas, Arizona,
New Mexico.
New Hampshire,
New
Mexico. No, all right, not a bad idea.
Maybe Nevada.
Yeah, maybe. Could become a gambling addict.
I'd probably go to
legally.
Yeah,
you could become a gambling addict legally in Nevada.
Yeah. I'd probably go to New Mexico just because my aunt and uncle live in Albuquerque.
Oh, is that why you're always referencing Albuquerque? But
yes, because I have it. Yes, because my aunt and uncle live there.
Right. Well, we're gonna have to wrap this up because this phone is really low on battery now.
Right. So, but I think we still got a good show out of it. So.
Yeah, we got a decent show. Short show. Well, actually, nearly 2 hours. It's not too bad.
Right. So, cheers. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.